Let's talk about 4 free agents that the Detroit Lions should look to sign this offseason. Let's talk Lions. Thank you for liking, for commenting, and subscribing to the channel. I look forward to hearing what you have to say, so drop your thoughts in the comments. But I spent some time researching some of the free agents that are on the market this offseason. And in doing so, I wanted to give 2 offensive and 2 defensive free agents that I think the Lions could really benefit from, that are also not just like, hey, we should go get this guy who's going to be way over the cap, but somewhere in the we could make it work region. So let's start on the defensive side of the ball. First and foremost, the number 1 person that the Lions should look to sign this offseason is Buffalo Bills linebacker Matt Milano. Matt Milano is incredible. If you don't know anything about him, when this video is over, go on the YouTubular, type it in, Matt Milano highlights, get your mind blown. Milano is nasty. The Bills drafted him, and there's been a lot of talk between Brandon Beane, the Bills GM, Milano basically being like, they know that they need to bring Milano back, but in order to do so, they're going to have to cut heavily in other areas in order to have the cap space to bring Milano back on the roster. Now, what is wild is the entire season with Milano on the field, the Bills only lost 1 game. 1 game with Milano on the field. But you're like, hey man, they went 13-3. The 3 games that they lost was without Milano. Milano didn't play those games. The only game that Milano played that the Bills lost was against the Kansas City Chiefs. The main issue is, according to Sport Track, if you look at what Milano is estimated to be worth going into this season, it'll probably be about $13 million. That's a pretty penny, but he is worth it. And I know what you're saying. Well, what about Jamie Collins? What about Take the cap hit. Take the cap hit, release Collins. Collins is the type of guy who, when he is on, he's on. And he plays well, and I'm not going to take that away from him. But the problem is getting him to be on. The problem is lighting that fire. And at some point, wet matches aren't going to do the job. Yeah, I know there's still a match, but if they're wet, it ain't going to light. And that's kind of what Jamie Collins is like. You just don't know. You're either getting a wet book of matches or he is gasoline. And you're like, sweet. But it's hazardous to the health. When I look at Matt Milano, you know what you're getting. It's a high-octane linebacker who can stop the run, a huge issue for the Detroit Lions, and he adds such a depth of dropping back, covering. To me, Matt Milano, if we could wrap that boy up in Honolulu blue like a mummy, I would do it tomorrow. Take the cap hit, release Collins, grab Milano, call it a day. Number 2 is Jadeveon Clowney. Now look, you either love him or hate him. You either love this idea or you hate this idea. And the number 1 issue is the price. Clowney wants more than I think he is really worth at this point. And I don't blame him. The NFL, not for long. You're trying to make every dollar that you can. It's a business. But when I look at Clowney, if he is willing to compensate, if he's willing to take a hit and be able to come to the Detroit Lions for less than the 17 or 18 mil that he's asking for, I look at him as somebody who would be a huge, dynamic move for us defensively on that line. Specifically looking at the dual threat that he would offer with a guy like Trey Flowers. We have tied a mill around our neck with Flowers with the contract, and so to me, while we have him, let's double up, let's dual threat it. Clowney Flowers, not only does that sound like an excellent detergent, but they would be dynamic together on that line, and something that I think the Detroit Lions should at least have negotiations or conversations with in order to see if it's possible. He's an excellent pass rusher. That's something that we need to do, is pressure the quarterback. We don't do it enough. The Detroit Lions haven't had the guy defensively since Sue, right? Like, we really haven't had somebody that strikes fear in the opponent, or where the opponent's like, okay, we really got to watch out for that guy. It has been far too long, and I think Clowney would offer that, not to mention taking pressure off of Flowers, allowing the two of them to work together. Because that's really what Griffin was supposed to do. Everson Griffin, Trey Flowers supposed to work together to be that dual threat. Literally, the week that Griffin came here, Flowers got hurt, and that was the end. So I think with a Clowney, Flowers combination, that's where we would find some serious success. Not to mention Clowney against the rush. Come on. I think it's something that we need to at least try for. And seeing what Brad Holmes is willing to do and try to negotiate with, I'm looking at you, Aaron Donald. I think it's worth it, and Holmes is the type of guy to maybe even try it. Now let's move to the offensive side of the ball. First and foremost, I think we should look at Cleveland Browns wide receiver Rashard Higgins. Go look at my man's stats. He is flying under the radar. There is a level of what Rashard Higgins is doing that is, for the price, exactly what the Lions could use right now. He is inexpensive. We could bring him in here in a wide receiver core that needs help at a very inexpensive price. That's huge. You look at Higgins' stats this year, he went 37 for 52. That's a 71% reception percentage. He put up 599 yards with a total of about 16 yards per reception. I think he only had like 4 TDs on the season, but when you look at him, he was targeted at max 6 times a game. So it wasn't often. However, you could tell that Baker was finding success with him and looking for him more often throughout the season. His reception percentage is solid at about 71. All in all, I look at him, the separation that he's able to create with the defensive player is awesome. He can create separation, and he's an excellent route runner, something that I think we could really benefit from with Cephas on one side, you got Rashard on the other. Hey, all in all, I think that is a solid look, especially because, you know, we've talked about Allen Robinson, Kenny G's probably leaving, Marvin Jones is leaving. We need to fill that gap on the wide receiver side, and we can fill it with a veteran, an experienced player for cheap. That I love. Last on the list is offensive lineman Joe Thuney. Now, I know he is from the Patriots, and there is a fear that strikes in the heart, because I get it. I have the same fear in the back of my mind where I'm like, I never want to deal with the Pats again, but that is irrational. Almost as irrational as Saruman siding with Sauron. Like, come on, you joined the bad guys because you thought they were going to win? You didn't even stick to your gun? I don't want to get into it because I will get too deep into it. Thuney has developed incredibly over the last 5 years. Not to mention, he hasn't missed a game since starting 5 seasons ago. When I look at Thuney, he has developed well over the last 5 seasons, and especially if we are going to be bringing the run game to Detroit like Dan Campbell, Anthony Lynn, like it's being said, right? I mean, Campbell made it pretty clear, hey, I want to bring the run game back to Detroit. Looking at Swift, looking at this, I see a guy like Thuney, and I see somebody who is able to really find success as a guard doing that. Really, I've seen Thuney find success in developing in protection for the run game, and that's an area that we're going to really need a lot of help as we're going to be pushing the run game forward here in Detroit. Now without Stafford, with Swift developing, with Anthony Lynn coaching, Staley, the whole kit and caboodle, we are going to need some protection on the O-line as the run game is developing here in Detroit. And so I think Joe Thuney is a solid free agent to bring here to Detroit. But you tell me, what do you think about my 4 options? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you have any other options for free agents that you like, that you think deserve to be on this list, drop it in the comments. I look forward to reading it, discussing it with you. And as always, I'll catch you next time on Let's Talk Lions.